Hello and welcome back to Shelf Center. This is Bryce. Thank you so much for stopping by. Thanks for liking and subscribing. You know, if this is something you end up enjoying, it could happen. You never know. So today I wanted to do a little bit of a different video. It's a little bit of a navel gaze, a little bit of history with me and science fiction and fantasy. And so I just wanted to kind of go back to my roots, to essentially the original TBR that I set for myself, kind of an accountability a little bit, but also just to, part of just doing this channel has been to just kind of essentially vlog my life to some degree or other. Anyway, this is the official list. So back in the day, a little history lesson, and I'll have links down below if you want to skip ahead from this part. But back in the day, we're talking 2008. I'd been in and out with reading for some time. I read Narnia back in elementary school, and I was a huge reader then. Then I just fell off for a while. In high school, when the movies were coming out at that time, and then and just blazed through them and just, really cemented a love for reading, and especially fantasy, and especially just, new worlds. And essentially I kind of track back my seeking for different worlds and for that feeling of just being transported to a whole different place, to the Lord of the Rings, really. But again, I never really had a huge, wasn't really back into reading until probably about 2006. So we're saying 2006, I had a great friend, and he introduced me to the Dragon Prince series by Melanie Ron. And it kind of, again, every now and then I guess I had to just have a reigniting of my love for reading. Followed quickly from that trilogy to reading Game of Thrones back at that time. His statement going along with reading Game of Thrones was, "Man, I am so jealous you are reading this for the first time." And that's proven true. That really cemented it. Then I was just an addict from there, and my TBR started to grow. I read Eddings, Feist, The Magician, The Malorian, and Belgariad, and just kind of everything I could get my hands on. I was a maniac, but I just became obsessed at the time, to say the least, and really just felt that, oh man, I just had to get everything I could. So in that kind of fever, or whatever you want to call it, it was about 2008. I had a great job where I did customer service. It was actually German-speaking customer service. We had a lot of downtime. Started at 5 in the morning. That was the rough part about it, but at least you were done by 1 or 2 in the afternoon. And then you just kind of waited for phone calls. There were projects here and there, but for the most part, I watched a lot of that. Back in the day, ABC had whole seasons of shows. I watched the entirety of Lost, all 5 seasons or whatever, is that it? 5 seasons of 20-something episodes per season. So tons of downtime. I found myself stumbling across a forum for fantasy and science fiction. I was actually looking up, just kind of I loved, there were some great, upkept, top 100 fantasy lists and stuff like that. But in one of those things that popped up was a whole thread on the forum SFF World, and that's where I met actually some friends to this day that I still interact with, which is pretty cool. But there's this great thread, and it had the top 10 lists of everyone could just, that was all it was. It was everybody's top 10 list. Put your top 10 list here, and it's just great because, all I did, and my thought was, hey, I'm looking through this. I'm seeing a lot of the same books over and over again. I'm going to write these down, and that's going to be what I read. That's what I'm going off of. So this is where this developed, where I have this old list of mine here. This is even, funny enough, this is even the company that I worked with. Use their own stuff right here. To their own, and it's kind of falling apart a little bit, but just started my list. Here's the list that I keep seeing. If I saw a book more than a couple times, it was getting on the list. This is the list. I've collected a good many of the books. I've read a couple and then just gotten rid of the books just over the years and depending on the moves, but just wanted to kind of go through what I, the books that I have, what I've read, what I haven't, maybe a quick description of them, and this so this doesn't get too long, because there's a lot. I counted it out. We're looking at 57. So 57 books total. I've actually read quite a few, so we'll get to that in a second. But first things first. First book. All right, the first one, this actually is also a George R. R. Martin recommendation, but it's Fritz Leiber. It's not in the best shape. I promise I didn't do it to this, although you know, I can be accused. I don't treat my paperbacks super well. I've learned. I thought I had this idea of myself, but it keeps getting dashed over and over again. But anyway, Swords and Deviltry, Alfred and the Grey Mouser, I believe is what it's called. But anyway, Sword and Sorcery. I've actually read just one of these, and so I'm going to count it. But Ilmet in Lankmar, I have read, and it was great. Definitely makes me want to keep reading this. So I'm counting it in the red because of technically what my goal too is just kind of at the time is to experience as many as I could, so I could just talk about these books. Even if I could just read one book, I just wanted to be able to talk about them. All right, this is a non-read. I have not read it yet, but it is one that has been compared to Stargate, and I do love Stargate. Great movie. Tim Powers, The Anubis Gates, so that's definitely on the list. I actually have it on audiobook as well, so it's more likely than not to get read that way. Then we've got Mary Gentle's Ash, A Secret History. There's actually 4 books in this. I have all 4 of them. I didn't know if I had time, or I just really didn't have space to even bring them. But this is one I've just heard great things. This was on a lot of lists back in the day, and obviously, since it was back in the day, we're not going to get a lot of anything after 2008, right? But anyway, these are just so definitely high on the list, but have not read yet. Next, we've got Legend by David Gemmell. This is read. I have read it. It is in the red pile. It's great. Very just traditional fantasy, but I liked a lot of it's very pretty much straightforward. Got like a 1-page prologue is what Gemmell does. This is sadly the only Gemmell that I've read. I own, I think, like 15 to 20 of his books, but one day we'll get to it. I just keep getting sidetracked, as usual, this mood reader. All right, then we've got Heroes Die by Matthew Woodring Stover. This is one of my favorite books of all time, so yeah. I read it again. It's so good. I really love it, especially that artwork. Holy cow, no, it's terrible. But I do love it. It's one of those where you like the artwork more because you love the book. The Dragons of Babel, this is one that Michael Swanwick is one of those just classic fantasy authors. The Iron Dragon's Daughter, I think, is another one that's really his classic, but this happened to be kind of popular at the time. I need to read. I actually own Iron Dragon's Daughter as well, but this is one where it just seems cool. Look at that cover. I love this cover. Stephen Martinier. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, but anyway, that's the artist there. That's a no read. Have not read that one yet. Shadow of the Wind. I have read this one. This is so good. It's it gets a little what's the word for it? It's a little over the top, but it's it fits too, and it works in the world. Melodramatic, that's the word. It really does fit this, but it's great. What a great story. Just wonderful, and has that magical feel to it. And I don't know how you do that with the translation too, but just a magical feel, like Neil Gaiman, Diana Wynne Jones. I kind of put those as the magical authors. All right, then we've got a couple here that I do not have. G.K. Chesterton's The Man Who Was Thursday. This is in the red. I have read it. It was good. I remember it being, I kind of was just why is this there? The Man Who Was Thursday. It makes sense. It's actually pretty obvious once you read it, and it's entertaining, little kind of mystery book. Pretty short, worth your time. Then Aldous Huxley's Brave New World. That's another one. Have read, and I enjoyed it. I think I liked it more than 1984. 1984 was just so depressing, but this is one of those that it's just kind of the other side of this dystopian world. And I have read again this one. But like, what if people got everything they wanted, and then just, you know, what would happen then? All right, then, speaking of classics in science fiction, Isaac Asimov's Foundation. It's good. It's actually, I thought it would be dry, and it has every reason to be. And the writing isn't like perfect. It's not even great. It is what it is, but the ideas are so good that it's really compelling. So it's definitely in the read pile, or in the having read pile. Then it wasn't all apparently, looking back, I'm like, I don't think I got this from a top 10 list. This just happened to be on my list. But anyway, Chuck Palahniuk's Fight Club. I think I'd watched the movie prior, so I kind of knew a little bit. Anyway, still a great twist, you know, less so when you know the twist is coming, but then you're able to kind of analyze a little bit for it. It's interesting, definitely raw, and but I don't know. I think I like the movie better, but it could just be because that's where I got the twist. So, all right, then we've got The Name of the Wind. How's my list going so far? The Name of the Wind, that makes sense, right? Name of the Wind, I have read it. It's great. I think it just keeps going lower in my estimation the longer we go without a third book. But I don't know if you checked out Mike's book reviews and the interview that he just did with Pierce Brown, who has a similar editor to, or the same editor maybe, with Patrick Rothfuss, or same agent, something like that. But there's some rumblings that maybe sooner finished than later, so we'll see. But sometimes people just confuse, if he just puts out a novella, they're like, I guess that's the book, and that's not the book. So I don't know. He's also putting out a novella, so who knows. All right, next we've got Hyperion. This one is excellent. It's just, there's a reason it's one of the best, known as one of the best, and in many people's top 10 lists of all time, because it's excellent. The book 2 puts it down a little bit in my estimation, because it kind of like finishes the story, but it completely changes how the story is told. And that just was something I don't think I was really ready for, and so maybe I need to reread sometime soon, because this one is just so good. It's so well done. It's hard to like take it a different way when you've gotten so spoiled, I guess. I don't know. All right, then we've got Stephen King and Peter Straub, The Talisman. I did read this, and it is I think people kind of led me to believe it was like life-changing, and I think it might have been had I read it at a certain point of life. Having read it only a couple of years ago, it just, I think my hype like was overwhelming to me, and it didn't work for me like I wanted it to, like I thought it might. It was still good, so I just was like, but it was kind of almost like succumb to the hype at the same time. And I shouldn't let that happen, but sometimes it does. So for me, the hype got to it, but I still find this, it was still a good book. All right, then we got Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep by Philip K. Dick. I actually don't have the book. It didn't survive a move, because it was just like, if I read it, it's probably not going to survive at some point moving over the years. I mean, since 2008, I went to 2 different colleges, and you know, had like 3 different state moves or something like that. Anyway, so I do have this though, and I have a number of other ones too that I need to get to, but I have read actually Minority Report too. But Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep is excellent. It's so good, and it's different enough too from Blade Runner, and I like that you can really enjoy them both separately and in their own ways and for their own mediums that they bring. All right, then we've got The Black Company by Glenn Cook. This is another one where I took on too much, but I did read Black Company. I've read the first in the Black Company series. There's lots of them in there. I am looking forward to more, because as I described it, it's like just the marine part of Malazan, which are some of the best parts of Malazan. So anyway, we'll get to some Malazan in a second, actually. But this is definitely on the list. Lots of people love Black Company. All right, and then finally for page 1, there's a couple more pages. The end of page 1 is Perdido Street Station by China Miéville. I actually attempted this back in the day. It was strange. It was dense. I don't think I was ready for it. I gave up on it, but not as a DNF. I wasn't prepared for that. I need to get that read again, because I've heard so many good things. And I have read Kraken by Miéville, and I don't even know if I'm pronouncing the name right, But Kraken was excellent. I really liked it. Good urban fantasy in Meville's like weird way of doing anything. But I will give Perdido Street Station another go because I don't think I was ready for it. I think I am now. I think I'm a little more mature, a little more understanding, and so I think I'm ready for that one because anyway, it's a strange one though too. All right, next book, Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, or Norrell, I don't know. Anyway, this is one of my all-time favorites. Love it. It's a huge brick, and I want to reread it actually really badly. But anyway, great book. Want to read more. Then we got Dune. Of course, Dune's on the list, but at the time I hadn't read it, so Dune was on my list, my TBR. I love it. This is one I've read it twice. It's so good, and I've actually now read a sequel, so we're going to keep going in that direction and one day actually finish the Dune series. And we've got, like I said, clearly I didn't get this whole list from the SFF World thread, but I added the Brothers Karamazov, Fyodor Dostoevsky. Have read it. It was excellent. It's really quotable, really great. Lots of just anyway, aha moments. Then I also have The Three Musketeers by Alexandre Dumas, and the Count of Monte Cristo fame as well. I have not read that one actually. Count of Monte Cristo is one of my favorite books of all time though. One day I will reread that. That is a guarantee. Then we've got The Road by Cormac McCarthy. I did read that one. It was powerful. It's just interesting, the style, the lack of punctuation and whatnot. But you get used to it, and it's actually kind of adds to things, and especially in The Road. But man, what a depressing book too. But anyway, very good. Then I had either Timequake or Player Piano by Kurt Vonnegut. Vonnegut's one of my favorite authors. I have a ton of Vonnegut books. For some reason I didn't grab one for this video, but I don't have actually either. Well, actually I might actually have. I think I actually have them. They might be in some kind of box. Who knows? We did Recently-ish Move, so I'm going to use that as my excuse for this one. But I love Vonnegut, so I've read tons, and those are just more to add to that list. All right, then on the SFF World list for sure, The Deathgate Cycle by Margaret Weiss and Tracy Hickman. I heard even Gandalf makes an appearance in that. I don't know. This is just, I need to read it. It sounds so cool. It's I think a 7-book series, but lots of nostalgia there, I think, too. Then also the Dark Sword trilogy, I believe, with one prelude by the same authors, Margaret Weiss, Tracy Hickman. Again, they're just, I did actually finally read The Dragons of Autumn Twilight, the Dragonlance, first in the Dragonlance series, whatever, world, the whole thing. It's tons, and I enjoyed it. I think I would have enjoyed it had I read it a lot earlier in my life, but it was still good. It was still good. Then we've got The Briar King by Greg Keyes. What I was described as this being is Game of Thrones light. So I have not read this one. Haven't read any of the Deathgate Cycle or the Dark Sword, like I said, but I haven't read this one. It looks good, and anyway, I hear good things. Although I hear they get they get worse as they go on, has been the word on the street. But I'm gonna read this one day. All right, this one's too easy, but Malazan Book of the Fallen. This was my very first Malazan Book of the Fallen book, Gardens of the Moon. This has been well read a couple times now, seen some use, and I finally even broke the spine, which I try not to do. You should see, I have some huge books that I haven't broken the spine on. I'm very proud of that. This one got me eventually. Anyway, read all 10 of the main series, read multiple of the side series. Anyway, I love it. You might know that if you've watched the channel before. Then we got The Wars of Light and Shadow by Jenny Wirtz. Like I said, this is, and I've talked about this many times, just grabbed a couple off my shelf. They look like this. It's finally done this year, so definitely go check it out. But like I said, this has been on my list for ages, and on many people's lists for a reason. All right, then we've got, this is finally, I actually, so I have read, Jenny Wirtz. Then we've got Brandon Sanderson's Mistborn. I can finally say I've read at least the first book. I read it. Look at that. This not only broke the spine, but it is in pieces. Oh, That's bad. In my defense, it came to me like this after my son had it. I'm just saying, what the heck, dude? But I'm glad he loved it. That's the best part. So anyway, I'm up next on the Wells of Ascension, the Well of Ascension. Anyway, finally, just read it this year though. All right, then we've got the Great Book of Amber, Roger Zelazny. Great book. It's so good. I've read it, read the first 5 at least, and they're excellent. And this is a huge book. This is one have not read, but is a classic in fantasy. I know that, I realize that, and I am slacking for not reading it. But this is one I've read. Tad Williams. I've had to mixed success. I enjoyed his entry in the Tales of the Dying Earth, Songs of the Dying Earth, but I have struggled a little bit. I struggled with Otherland, but I still liked it. Like I liked it, but it was just so long, and it was just too much for me. And so I hear these are, along the same line. It takes some time to get places and to do things. So, Dragonbone Chair. I'm gonna read it though. It's a pillar of fantasy. I mean, you can't not. Then we got The Blade Itself by Joe Abercrombie. I have read these. Read the whole trilogy, read most everything except for the most recent trilogy for Joe Abercrombie. I've kind of been waiting. One day I'll do a buddy read or something probably with it. That'll get me to read it. So anyway, love them. They're great. They just didn't survive a move. So here we are. And we've got the Coldfire trilogy by C.S. Friedman. This is another one I ended up having to get rid of. It was actually in an unhaul video that I featured them. Because I do have at least the first book on audio. I just need to get to it. I've heard great things, but it's a great trilogy. We've got The Lies of Locke Lamora. Lies of Locke Lamora is great. I love it. Need to do, whoa, look at that. That is terrible. Sun use, man. But anyway, the Lies of Locke Lamora's storage in the sun. Man, that is bad. But love Lies of Locke Lamora. It's hilarious, so good. Matt's Fantasy Book Reviews doing a big, huge buddy read on Lies of Locke Lamora, I believe in June, so coming up here soon. I might have to dip into it. I have it on audio too, and so I hear it's really good on audio. Then we've got The Sword of Shannara, and the audio calls it Shannara. I like calling it Shannara. I think that sounds so much better, even though it's probably the accurate way. Again, I get Malazan wrong too, and willfully wrong. I enjoyed it. I don't, it gets a lot of crap too. It gets, a lot of people defend it. I enjoyed it. First King of Shannara, I did not love. It was like a very much a tell, don't show book. But this was, I was a little nervous. I had actually read that one first. This one was much better. I liked it. Definitely Lord of the Rings in a different form. But enjoyable. So I read it. My son is partly through too. Finally, for page number 2 of 3, and we've got Dresden Files. I found Full Moon. I think I have a couple of others randomly. Once I started audio, it's hard to go to anything else. You hear James Marsters in your head anyway for Harry. So great series. I love it. I've done all kinds of stuff on it. All right, third and final page here. We got Alistair Reynolds, Chasm City. For some reason, this one was always on the top. Revelation Space, even though that's the first in the series. This is really a prequel anyway, so you can read it out of order. I don't know. It's not really out of order. This is the order, I guess. Loved it. So good. Alistair Reynolds, one of my favorite in sci-fi, that's for sure. But definitely read. Then we got Glory Road by Heinlein. I checked it off because I got like halfway through and then DNF'd it. It wasn't for me. I don't know. I found it in a lot of lists, but I don't know why. Then we got Chronicles of Thomas Covenant, The Unbeliever by Stephen R. Donaldson. I've heard mixed reactions to these books, but I saw it on a lot of lists. So I actually own the books, but I think they're just in boxes somewhere. So anyway, I don't know. I've debated, but I think I got it just because they're kind of a pillar of fantasy. Then we got Tigana by Guy Gavriel Kay. I have read it. It's very good. I need to read more. GGK. But still, one of those where I think he helped with Christopher Tolkien, with some of the like Silmarillion and stuff like that. So anyway, knows his stuff. Tigana is up there with some of the best. Speaking of which, we got The Lions of Al Rassan, and that's one of those, I don't know, it's I'm sure I'm going to like it because I like Tigana a lot, and I just need to get to it someday. All right, then we got The Gunslinger and The Whole Dark Tower, but mostly The Gunslinger. I have read it, have read The Whole Dark Tower, love them. And now I just need to read more Stephen King to get more Dark Tower connections. Then we got Neverwhere. Have not read it, even though I've read a lot of Neil Gaiman. Just haven't gotten to this one for some reason. But I love them. I love them. Stardust. Let's see what else. Ocean at the End of the Lane. Lots of good stuff. So anyway, I'll get to this one eventually. Then we got Jerrig by Stephen Brest. I did read it, just the first. It's a big, long series. I really liked it. It's really fun. It's like almost like a urban fantasy set in a fantasy world, though. But it's like, you know, like Harry Dresden set in like an urban fantasy, but with, instead of mouse, you've got a little dragon. So it's kind of fun. Then we've got Shadow of the Torture. Gene Wolfe, of course, is on my list. Gosh, I got to get to this one. I read one short story by Wolfe and I was just like, I have no idea what that was about. So I've been a little daunted ever since, and I hear this is no less complicated. Also have the Wizard Knight duology from Wolfe, and so I've heard read that one first because it's a little straightforward, a little more straightforward, so may have to do that one first. Then we've got Assassin's Apprentice, book 1 in the Farseer trilogy by Robin Hobb. Love it. I love Live Ship Traders even more. So I've read now 6 books in this whole Realm of the Elderling series. I need to keep going, but especially I got Tawny Man up, and I hear nothing but good things about Tawny Man. But anyway, love this series. Good stuff. And I've got The Rune Lords by David Farland. I have not read this. It was kind of an interesting magic system. Has some Daryl K. Sweet cover art. A lot of things going for it, but it was on a lot of people's lists, so we'll see. I may get to that. We'll see. Then we've got Good Omens by Neil Gaiman and Terry Pratchett. Definitely read it. Definitely loved it. For some reason, I don't own the book, but I need to. Maybe I need just some special edition, right? Let's get a special edition. Then, speaking of comedic, writings, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Have read it. Have read the first 3 so far. I need to read more, but man, I love it. It's so good. It's top tier fantasy or science fiction for me. Then, not to be outdone, for some reason, even back in the day, I have both, Terry Pratchett, the Douglas Adams of fantasy, on my list as well. I haven't read this one, Man at Arms. I just kind of grabbed it. I have read the first 5 plus Pyramids, so I did read The Color of Magic, which was on my list. And I love Pratchett. Great stuff. Then we got The Tales of the Dying Earth. I don't have the actual books. I have them on audio, but I had this treasure at least. This is pretty cool. Subterranean Press edition. Really cool artwork, and I have read the first 2 of the 4. This is what I do. There's a reason I'm in the middle of like 40 series. I regret my past decisions for sure. And we got The Forever War by Jill Haldeman. I enjoyed it. It was good. I think it wasn't quite like I wanted it to be like the Starship Troopers and the what else was out, and Armor and all that, and it just, I didn't like it quite as much, but I still liked it a lot. It was still really good. I Am Legend by Richard Matheson. I have read this as well, and it's really good. Definitely different from the movie. I like the movie too, though, so I don't know. It's definitely changes the whole meaning of everything by that ending, so I don't know why you got to do that, but it is what it is. Still a good movie. And then finally, we've got The Reality Dysfunction by Peter F. Hamilton. This is where I'm concerned. I want to like Hamilton, but I did not like The Reality Dysfunction. I got 70% through on audiobook, and I was just like, I am not getting this. I don't know what the deal is. So I restarted, read the whole thing, and I still just did not love it. So anyway, I don't know if I'll give too many more shots. I do have a standalone by him. I think it's Fallen Dragon. So that's my list. That's my huge TBR of the 57 books. I have actually read 39. I counted it out. 18 still to go, which isn't too bad though. I mean, it's been some time now. So anyway, need to keep going on that. And this is kind of the core of my being, right? It's this is where I started, so I feel this need to finish the list, and so that's where I'm at now. It's a little bit of a history of where I'm coming from. Obviously, these only go up to 2008, nothing further, and that's why it's taking me so long to get through this, because I get sidetracked by all the new stuff that comes out. So if you're still with me, thank you so much for taking this time warp with me and going back in my past. Appreciate it. Thanks for liking. Thanks for subscribing. And we will catch you next time. Bye.